that how do we determine this very thing, we'll first understand what exactly do we mean by the tone or the style. The tone of the passage relates to that how has or what emotions has the author kept while he has written this text. Now, if it's the speaking skill, it becomes very easy for us to understand what is the style of speaking. Why? Because the type of the intonations that we use, it helps us to justify what are my feelings or what is my attitude towards the subject, right? But while in the written text, it's a little tricky that how do we judge what exactly is the tone? Well, to save us, we use the concept that we read the types of the adjectives and the adverbs that have been stated in the given text, right? That is, we emphasize on the language that the author has written to justify his emotions or his feelings or his attitude towards the given subject. He might be happy, he might be sad, he might be very objective or plain, but just that he's the type of the words that he has chosen to write this given text will help us to determine that what is his feeling, what is his exact uh, attitude towards the subject, right? Now, if I have to classify the tones, I'll just broadly classify them as positive, negative, or neutral. But these positive, negative, and neutral may be further sub-classified. But this thing will help us to understand the tones better, right? Uh, while speaking, we can judge that what is the tone based on the concept uh, based on the concept or the understanding of our non-verbal communication. And while in written text, again we'll use the understanding of our adjectives and the adverbs and the verbs and how have they been used to basically uh, classify the given text as a positive text or a negative text or the neutral text. By positive texts, I mean a text that is either praising or it is presenting a very, very happy scene, while the negative ones are more of tragic or they present some tragedy, or it may be something that relates to some trauma or something like that, right? And the neutral ones are very objective in nature. For example, any newspaper article that is describing an event, how many people took part in that event, what was the event, who were the judges, who all were present, who were the eminent personalities that were present, how long did it last. These are very plain statements, and this has nothing to do, this presents a very clear picture of what exactly happened, but it does not show was the scenario of the place happy or was it sad. So these are very neutral tones, right? So the understanding of these things will help us to determine what exactly is the tone of the speaking, right? Let's take an example. Supposingly, there's this line from the global warming thing, and we need to understand what is the tone of the passage. Now, when it comes to global warming, we have this funda in our mind that it is global warming, which is a problem, so it would be a negative tone. I mean, without even looking at the other options, I'll first of all go and mark the negative tone. But if I read this line, fortunately, the brilliant scientists were able to combine their wits and begin formulating promising solutions. Now, if I read this, fortunately is an adverb that shows that it's a sign of optimism. Brilliant is a good adjective, it's a positive adjective for the scientists. Promising solutions, again an adjective that shows the positive signs of the solutions. All these three are positive words, and since they're positive words, I will not say that the tone is negative. Why? Because the line is not does not have any word that is negative, right? So even if that line is from a text that talks global warming, but the type of the words show a little much of uh, positive inclination towards the subject, and thus my tone would be a positive tone. It might be optimistic, it might be reverential, but it is a positive tone. It cannot be a negative tone. Why? Because the words that the author has chosen to write the text are all positive. They show the positive signs, right? Let's rewrite this entire line and we say The irresponsible scientists pooled together their half-baked theories to create more egregious car tactic of 21st century. Now, irresponsible is a negative adjective for the scientists. Half-baked theory, that is not planned properly. Egregious scare. Egregious is someone who goes against the society. So these three words tell us that the author is not very happy about whatever is said. That is the reason he's chosen his adjectives that are very negative, that show the negative picture of the given situation. Thus, my overall tone of the entire sentence would be a negative tone. So we find that we can understand what is the tone of the passage by reading the text and interpreting whether the adjectives or the adverbs that are used in this text are presenting a good picture, or are they presenting a normal picture, that is the neutral tone, or are they presenting a bad picture, right? uh, Now, let us discuss some words that are often used in the questions as the type of tones or the style of writing. We'll discuss some of them, but it'll be very convenient for us to memorize these words if we classify them. So, what we're going to do is, whatever word we'll discuss, we'll classify it either as a positive tone, or as a negative tone, or as a neutral tone. And then after we've classified it as positive, negative, and neutral, we'll further put it into some of the other category. Like, is it something that shows some happy event, or is it something that shows very happy event, or is something that's showing optimism? And if it's something related to happiness, is it something that talks about humor, because even humor is happy, or even romance is happy. All these romantic things are happy, right? So we'll further classify them. By making a list of such a type, we'll be able to memorize these words, but please keep it in mind that all the words that we are discussing are not the only words that may be used as the type of the tones. There may be many other words. So it's a very never ending list, and we must be vigilant enough to keep on adding new types of tones to our list so as there is a higher probability of getting an option, of getting all these options as the ones that you already know, right? And then there is no point that you'll ever answer the question incorrect. So let's discuss some of them. Let's start with the positive tones, and we have classified them as happy tones, very happy tones, or the tones that praise someone, or the tones that are that cannot be classified as happy, very happy, or praise. So we've put them in another column. For example, we start with humorous tones. So humorous tones, the tones that are telling you some joke, or they are making you laugh. These are the statements that will make you laugh. So these are humorously quoted. For example, Shakespeare's Comedy of Errors. If you read it, it's a humorous tone. He's presented something that makes you laugh. So it's humorous. Likewise, if I talk about Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, it's a romantic tone. It's a happy tone, but it's a romantic tone. It does not make you laugh, but it makes you to think about romance and love and adoring someone and enumeration, something like that, right? So these two are very different. Being romantic, you cannot be humorous. If you're being humorous, you cannot be romantic, right? So these two tones are different, but I have classified them as happy because they are something that puts a smile on your face, right? So I put them into the positive tones, but in the happy ones. Likewise, if some situation or some text makes you laugh like anything, so that would be ebullient, right? Something that puts you to a very cheerful state. For example, a statement like, Sanya was on the Eden's garden as she received her perfect calculus sheet back. So Eden's garden is a very, very highly elated state. So this is ebullient tone wherein we are showing that how happy she was. She was very, very happy. So she was ebullient, right? You can praise people, so it could be admiring in a way of that you're admiring that person, or it could be that you're being reverential towards that person. Reverential is that you're being respectful, something that you do to your parents, right? For example, uh, a text that says, I'm really thankful to my teacher who has ever guided me through the tough times of my life. Now, here I'm paying my respect, I'm showing how grateful I am towards that person. And uh, it's not being courteous, but he has ever been generous towards me. So, this tone, I am showing my respect towards someone, this becomes the reverential tone. But an admiring tone would be, um, Angelina Jolie is a very beautiful woman, and uh, her eyes are very catchy, and she's a very good actor. Now, this I'm talking about her positive sides, her qualities. I'm discussing the qualities, and thus I'm admiring her. So this becomes an admiring tone. So if you're being reverential, that does not mean that you're admiring that person. You're being respectful. You're showing respect towards that person, right? And if you're admiring, likewise, it might not be the case that you're equally being reverential, right? Then we have just other tones like being optimistic. So we all are aware about a song that says, "We shall win, we shall win, we shall win someday." So this is an optimistic tone that says that although the things are not very good this time, but we're gonna come over these bad times some or the other day, and we're gonna win over the situation in a very, very positive manner. So this becomes a positive tone. Now let us take some examples of neutral tones. Neutral tones that are very plain. They do not present the positive or the negative sides, but they are very plainly stated. For example, if I take an example of objective tones. So we all have given some or the other exams that are objective type questions. So we are just concerned with what exactly is the fact. We are not related to any sort of information related to the fact. So we are concerned only with the answer, right? So this is the answer. So objective tone would be that presents you exact figures or numbers. You're just plainly stating whatever is there, right? There were 800 people, 20% men, 80% women. Out of 80% women, 40% educated, 60% uneducated. So these are plain statements that are presenting objective information. So this becomes objective tone. But likewise, if it's a story being narrated, so it would be narrative tone. You telling a story to someone. It might be a good story, bad story, which is just telling a story. And you're since narrating an event or you're narrating a story, it becomes a narrative tone. So once upon a time, there was a crow. He was very thirsty. He was flying here and there in search of water, and he saw a pot of water. This I'm just telling you about something. It's a story that's happening, so it becomes a narrative tone, right? Again, it may be a humanistic tone, or it may be a conjectural tone. It may be anyway. It may be a didactic tone. Didactic tone is wherein you're giving some or the other moral lectures, right? So if you find a text that discusses philosophy and it discusses how things should be done, you're presenting a lecture over something, so that becomes a didactic tone. Again, uh, it may be a biased tone that is one-sided. So we'll consider it into the neutral tones wherein you're being a little biased. For example, prejudiced. So if there's some sort of prejudice happening, what exactly is happening is that you're favoring some person by neglecting the others. So that is you're committing some prejudice. So if you see some of the other text that presents that there's one person being favored and the other being neglected, so that becomes prejudice. So Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice is a perfect example of prejudiced tone, right? Again, it may be a chauvinistic tone. Chauvinistic is that you're showing an authority over the others because you belong to a certain community. So, for example, we have male chauvinism. So, the people who are male chauvinistic, they feel that they can rule over the females. They can beat them, they can treat them badly, or they may treat them in a good manner, but generally in the bad way, just because they are men and they have this whole right of beating them or uh, you know uh, humiliating them publicly just because they are men. So this is a chauvinistic tone, right? So these are again neutral tones. Now, believe me, there is no end to this list. You can put on so many different words in either of these classifications. So just keep on adding your vocabulary. This will help you in vocabulary as well, and put adding your different types of tones to this very list, so as you have a very good number of different types of tones. And if there's a higher probability that if you get a question based on the tone of the passage, you know what exactly each word means. Let's discuss some negative tones. Now, negative, we have further classified them as sad, angry, sarcastic, or the normal negative words. For example, we have sad tones, right? So you have wistful tone. So wistful tone would be when you are being nostalgic about something. Uh, if the tone is that in while I were traveling with the train, in the train I came across the station where I memorized that how my family was tortured at this very station. Now I'm thinking about some events which are which bring back my painful memories, and such a text that shows that the author is basically having painful memories related to some place or something. He's being wistful, right? So that becomes a wistful tone. Cynicism or cynical tone. Cynicism would be that you look at the other people as like that they are very egocentric, and they're going to meet you only if they have some or the other profit motive from you. They seek some profit, right? So that would be a cynical tone, right? Likewise, pessimistic tone. So pessimism is the opposite of optimism. That is, everything, whenever if there's something like a sentence written, this home is a very bad is in very bad condition, and our even if we put in efforts to improvise its state, there's nothing that's going to happen. So I'm being pessimistic. That there's nothing that's going to happen tells me that I'm being pessimistic. That is, I look at the things by viewing their negative sides first. So this becomes pessimism, right? If I talk about anger, that if there's some sort of anger that you can sense while reading, so the tones that you may get may be inciting. That is, you find something that is provocating, but that relates to law as well, right? So that would be inciting tone, or it may be irating tone, that puts you that irritates you, right? Anything that is irritating would be irating. It may be indignant, that you find some text that shows that people are angry due to some law unjust or some injustice that has been done, and people are out in the rage. So there's some gang rape that happened and people are protesting against it. So such a tone would be indignant tone. Then we may have tones that are very very angry, that relate to, that show that a person is really very angry, very angry. For example, acerbic. Acerbic comes from acer, which means acid, right? So acerbic is a bitter tone, wherein if you encounter a text where two people are talking and one is literally disrespecting the other one, he's abusing, so he's being acerbic. Likewise, we have belligerent. Bell means war. So belligerent tone is where you see that a person, two people are into verbal fight, or maybe the other fight as well. We all have might have smelled caustic soda, right? So that literally hits you down your throat. So caustic tone would be that literally hits you or pinches you. That would be a caustic tone, right? An example of acerbic tone would be a person like you will never be able to do this because you are an admiral in the Swiss Navy. Now here you're disrespecting the person, you're abusing him, you're making a mockery of him. So this becomes an acerbic tone. Or there may be a sarcasm, hidden sarcasm. Now sarcasm is when you basically taunting someone, right? So that becomes sarcastic tone. We can further classify it as disparaging. That is, you're treating someone unequally. You are belittling the other person. You are making mockery of him. You're making fun of him. So as you put him down. So that becomes disparaging. Or maybe satire. Satire is a humor that is done in lieu of highlighting some problem. So if we are making jokes on, say, bribery or corruption or nepotism, so that would be a satire on that thing, right? So that would be a sarcastic tone again, right? And it may be a normal negative tone, such as you may get a cavilling tone, that is somebody is creating objections. He's saying, no, this is not good, this is bad, it's nice but it's not very nice, something like this. So this becomes a cavilling tone again. This is a very never ending list, but yes, we have to add lot many words to this list, yes. And then these words also. Now I'm not discussing all of these because it'll take a lot much of time, but yes, kindly google all these words so as you know what are their meanings, make a good list of these words, and then practice upon the, these words, right? And try and make some examples related to each of these tones. So if there's cynical, what could be a type of sentence that is cynically stated? Or it is skeptical, what could be a type of sentence that is skeptically stated? Should I go there or should I go to Paris? So this is skepticism, right? So, or it's a ridiculing, oh, look at you, you're so dirty. This is you being ridiculed, right? So such things, you must look for these words over Google or dictionaries and find out the meaning, and then make a list of these words and do practice and keep on adding the other words that are related, right? Let's take some questions. For example, this is the first question. Great. Soon he'll be able to steal his mom's gold without her knowing it. What should be the tone? And the options that are given are praising, happy, sentimental, sarcastic, or hopeful. Take a minute and try and solve this question. Now, if I read this sentence, I I start with great, which shows a positive sign. But here, he'll be able to steal his mom's gold. Here, we're talking about something that's negative. So that's something, I'm complimenting him because great is a compliment over something which is bad, right? So it's a satire. So my answer should be, it's a sarcastic tone. Let's take another example. I showed him just how to do it. He blew it. He could have gotten away with it if he'd just listened to me. Take a minute again. You may pause the video and try and interpret what should be the tone of this passage or this line. Now, if I read this line, I showed him to him. I am putting in my efforts. He blew it. That is, he destroyed it. He could have gotten away with it if he. If I read this, he could have, if he had. He blew it. That is, he's not done it nicely. So if I compare these things, there's an irony that's happening. And the first line also says that there were some efforts being put in by the author. So the author is not happy about whatever has happened, and he says that there could have been better things, so he is disappointed, right? Let's take another example. He doesn't suffer from insanity, he enjoys it, every minute of it. Now if I read the given options, that may be tragic, sanguine, sarcastic, analytical, or cavilling. Now, if I try and interpret the sentence, I say that the person is not mad, but he is really enjoying being called as a mad. He enjoys being called as a mad, or he enjoys all the stuff that he does that relates to something that's insane, right? So I am presenting two different. It's an oxymoron sort of a situation where I'm presenting two different things, two different scenarios. One says that he's not mad, that is a negative aspect, and uh, the other says he's enjoying being mad, right? So these are two opposites put together. That means I am taunting this person, so it becomes a sarcastic tone. Let's take another example. It's a little big question. You may pause the video and then try and interpret what is the given tone of the passage. Now, if I look at the style of writing, it says, do not imagine comrades. It's like addressing someone. On the contrary, it's no one believes It's more of like addressing someone, and he's taking examples of Napoleon Bonaparte or the other people. It's addressing and giving someone a little much of, uh, lecture sort of a thing. Since it's a lecture and it's related to life, so it becomes a didactic tone where you're giving the moral lectures. Now let's just take a bigger example. Here's a big paragraph that is presented to you, and he asks, what is the overall tone of the passage? One. And the second question is that there's this one line written in this passage. What is the tone of this very line? Now, what do I do? You may pause the video for a second and then try and answer the question before we start discussing. Now, if I read the passage here, uh, he is first presenting he's using some positive words, and then he's also commenting on the place. So if he's describing Tony's place, he uses some positive words like hearty red sauce, that is a good red sauce, delicate fish, a nicely cooked fish, right? Then specials, that is what were the specialities, right? And they were like there's some of the other words that show the positive aspects along with the negative aspects, wherein he's being a little sarcastic. Why, if I read this sentence, they also seem know how to make a hearty red sauce. Too bad they use it to drown their delicate fish. So here he's presented two positives, but he's written them in a way that it becomes a little sarcastic manner, right? So the overall tone of the passage is that he's describing Tony's place, yes, and he's describing the positive aspects, but he's not very satisfied. So he's objecting upon whatever is being presented in the Tony's place. So it is a cavilling tone. It cannot be an excited tone. Why? Because excited tone is a positive tone, whereas the overall passage, when I read it, I feel that it is a negative passage, right? It cannot be a sad tone. Why? Because there are use of positive words. And disappointed, he would have been disappointed if he would say that I had done some of the other inputs. Yeah, there were some inputs from the author himself as well, right? So it becomes a cavilling tone. And now he seemed to see us only as automatic tip machines. The tone of the passage is, this line is what? Now, there's an irony existing in this entire sentence. He says that he seemed to see us only as automatic tip machines. That he here points to the waiter. Wait, so here is the sentence. He says that that is the waiter, is present. He's taking the order as a person will just give him the tip without being served nicely. So this tone, he's using this in a very sarcastic manner. He's taunting the waiter. So he's taunting, so it becomes a sarcastic tone. Let's take another example. You may pause the video again and read this entire passage and tell what is the given tone. Now, the tone is obviously not a humorous. Why? Because there is no sort of jokes being cracked. He's not objecting over something, so these two options are eliminated. Now, it can be alarmed or objective. Now, we may think that the tone is objective. Why? Because he's presenting the facts here. But if I read this passage overall, there's a sense of threat. Now, he's using the words like a variety of man-made threats, uncontrolled tourism, urban development, right? So these things, right? So, for example, the Antarctic hut from the captain, these things, this shows a little much of skepticism with the author. So the tone is not objective. Why? Because he's not only presenting the facts, he's also passing a little much of judgments. So the answer becomes alarmed. Let's take another example. Here in this passage, you ask what is the tone of the passage. You may again pause the video and try and interpret the passage. Now let's discuss. Here, the choice of the word. Now, first of all, he's presenting some ironical situation, yet the word tells us. Also, he's telling that he's not very happy. For example, for me, this was the last straw, right? Or there is like he's showing that what exactly is done by what exact uses are these laptops put to. They are inclined more to visit networking sites like MySpace, etc. And no wonder then the kids have lower grades, etc. Now, he's presenting a very sad picture by the use of objectiveness. So he's irritated with this thing. So the tone becomes irate tone, right? All right, let's move further. We have this question, and these are the given tones. What do you think is the tone of the passage? Uh, Now, here the first of all, he's presenting uh, a situation that he's saying that you often feel that you've done nothing but you've actually done a lot. That is, he's presenting a situation that a person usually faces, and then he's telling you, he's justifying why this happens, and then he's telling you that no, it is not bad, but something like he's actually motivating you. So he is encouraging, right? So the tone becomes encouraging tone. Why? Because this entire passage is motivating that you must keep on putting your efforts in. So this becomes a motivating tone. So it is a encouraging tone. Another question, and these are the given options. What could be the tone of the passage? You may again pause the video and think about the answer. Now, if I read the passage, he is talking about some things that will happen. There would be better positions. So winters will pass. Days will lighten. Now days will lighten. That will be there will be more light. Winters will pass because winter is a painful. It might be painful for some people because too chilly. People cannot survive. So again, likewise, ice will melt. The winds will blow, etc. Now he's showing that there are some positive things that are going to happen. So he is sanguine. That is, he's being optimistic towards the subject, right? So by this we understand that we can use the use of words and try and interpret what exactly is the tone of the passage. I'd really ask you or advise you to practice a lot many questions related to the tone of the passage. That gets us to the end of the discussion of the tone. If there's any sort of problem, you can go back to the entire video and redo the entire questions, all these questions, and do practice a lot. Thank you and have a nice day.